Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing the play Serjeant Musgraves' Dance by John Arden. So before moving on to the play, let's take a look at the author. So John Arden, he was an English playwright who at his death was lauded as one of the most significant British playwrights of the late 1950s and early 60s. Arden, initially he was associated with the English stage company at the Royal Court Theatre in London. He has written many plays like Live Like Pigs, The Workhouse Donkey, Armstrong's Last Good Night. Among that, Serjeant Musgraves' Dance, which was published in 1959, it was one of the best work done by him. Speaking of Arden, he depicts man in society rather than man in a drawing room. His desire was that after leaving the theatre, audience will mentally and intellectually involved in the drama. Arden has written his plays in order to change the mindset of his audience. So, our play, it is divided into 3 acts. And it happens on a North England wharf in 1880. Okay, so this play, it is an unhistorical parable. The story is that Sergeant Musgrave and 3 other soldiers, they returned the body of a dead soldier back to his hometown, a mining community in the grip of a coal strike, that is in a winter season. They pretend to be visiting to recruit more soldiers, but Musgrave had a plan to confront its people with the realities of warfare. He holds the town people at his gunpoint, he hoists the skeleton of the dead soldier, he makes up his demands. So mainly, the play, it questions the futility of war. It shows the violence of war. Let me now introduce the characters of the play. So, the protagonist of this play is Sergeant Musgrave, often known by the nickname Blackjack. He is the leader of his group. He has 3 of his soldiers with him, and it is his plan they are trying to implement. Okay, so with him, there were soldiers like Private Attercliffe, Private Sparky, and Private Hurst. So then we have the mayor, who is the owner of the mine. We have Annie, the barmaid, who was pregnant with Billy Hicks' baby. And Billy Hicks is the soldier who died during the war. Okay. Then we have the bargee, who helps the soldiers in the transportation. Then we have the constable. Then we have Mrs. Hitchcock. And it is in Mrs. Hitchcock's pub where the soldiers stay. Then we have Walsh, a leader among the callers. Okay. Let's now move on to the play. So as I told you earlier, the play, it opens on a North England wharf in 1880, where we meet 3 soldiers named Private Sparky, Attercliffe, and Hurst. Okay, so their leader is Sergeant Musgrave, and they have come in a single-minded mission to persuade the townspeople for the terror and violence of war. Okay. So these people, they set off to Hicks mining town. Okay, Hicks is the one who died in the war. So they are heading off to Hicks mining town, and the play develops in that place. Okay. So these soldiers, they arrive in the town during the middle of a lockout. Yeah, here we also meet Annie, the barmaid, who works at a local pub. She works at Mrs. Hitchcock's local pub. That is, in the end of this scene, we hear from Mrs. Hitchcock that Annie was pregnant with Billy Hicks' baby. And it was at that time that Billy went off to the army, and Annie, she lost the baby. The baby was dead. Okay. So we also see Bagri in this scene, and the Bagri, he strongly believes that the soldiers are on a recruiting mission. The plan of the soldiers is still unknown to the people, to the mayor, the constable, for everyone the plan is still unknown. Okay. So the central development of the play, it takes place in the second act, which is set in the local pub, that is in Mrs. Hitchcock's pub. Okay. So here, Musgrave, he insists his men to help the cause of their arrival. That is, he insists his men to keep numb about the plan, not to reveal their plan to anyone. But let us look what they did. Here, Sparky, that is one of the soldiers, he hits on Annie, the barmaid. But she refuses him. Hers then shows up and Annie is attracted by him. She asks out to him and he accepts. Then there happens a fight between the colliers and the soldiers, and the constable and the mayor, they appear and they ask to stop the happenings in the bar. But the things proceed. Later, when Annie and Sparky, they talk about Annie's life, about Billy Hicks and her baby whom she lost, they become passionate. And what does Sparky do? Sparky, he tries to reveal the plan. And Hearst, he overhears this. Hearst comes in and asks Sparky about this, and an argument happens between them. Attercliffe at this time, he comes in this scene. What he does is, he stabs accidentally. He stabs Sparky accidentally to death. So, by the end of the scene, Sparky is dead. Okay, so, though the other soldiers, they asked Sergeant Musgrave not to go on with the plan, he was not willing to do so. He wanted to do the plan. So, the mayor then informs that the dragons will be coming in the 12th hour to quell violence. So in the final act, the rally begins and Musgrave talks about the life of a soldier. He describes the horrible conditions that a soldier has to live in and how duty is more important to them than anything in life. So he then reveals the skeleton of Billy Hicks, who died in the war. And everyone is shocked. Nobody understands what is happening over there. He then chronicles the story of the death of Billy Hicks and other 5 civilians. Okay, the town, as I said, the town doesn't understand what is happening over there. Yeah. He announces that killing 25 people will be just revenge for Hicks and 5 civilians' death. None of them is aware about what is Musgrave doing, but Annie, she gets it. She reveals the circumstances of Sparky's death. Later, hers is being killed by the dragons. Attercliffe and Serjeant, they are arrested. So in prison, Sergeant Musgrave, he refuses food and he is being haunted by the deaths. That is the death of Billy Hicks and other 5 civilians. So, that's the story of the play. Now let's go on to the themes. So, the major theme in this play is guilt. That of guilt and remorse. So Musgrave, he is overcome by guilt over the death of Billy Hicks as well as the 5 civilians. So guilt is what prompted them to desert their post in order to travel to the coal mining town. Musgrave, he wants to enforce England to share responsibilities of these deaths. To that end, he makes public display of Hick's skeleton, showing the townspeople how one of their sons died in vain. So Musgrave, he also plans to shoot 25 of the townspeople, but it doesn't happen. The next theme is that of supernatural. Okay? So, the ghost of Billy Hicks, it still haunts Musgrave and Attercliffe. Yeah? So, in a way we can say that Hicks' ghost, it represents the futility of war for Musgrave and his men. At the end of the play, the ghost still haunts Musgrave and Attercliffe. So Hicks' ghost, it also haunts Annie. So he has loved Annie and he was the father of her baby. After Hicks left town to join the army, the baby died and Annie, she was left and rejected as an outcast. Okay. The next theme is that of loyalty. So Musgrave, he demands absolute loyalty from his fellow soldiers. He is their leader and he believes that he has God on his side. Although Musgrave has deserted the British army, he still adheres to some values of it. So while he believes that unnecessary killing is wrong and that troops often live and work in abnormal conditions, Musgrave is not above collusious to his own men. Okay, the next theme is that of violence. So the futility of war is being described in this play. The violence that war showers is also shown in this play. Many deaths happen due to war and people migrate to different places. So the violence of war is also shown in this play. So our play is an example of epic theatre. So epic theatre, it is associated with the German playwright Bertolt Brecht. So alienation effect is used in this play. Arden, he constantly reminds the audience that what they are seeing is constructed and mediated by the author's intelligence. In other words, the play is an interpretation of reality. So as I told you earlier, the play, it is divided into 3 acts and it happens on a North England wharf in 1880. And the protagonist of the play is Sergeant Musgrave. There are 3 other soldiers named Hurst, Sparky, Attercliffe. So the main themes of the play are guilt, violence, loyalty and supernatural. So that's all about the play. Thank you.